הרבנים החשובים, כבוד המנהל, כבוד ידידי חבר הכנסת מר מנחם ידיד, הקהל הקדוש, תלמידים החביבים והיקרים, המורים והמורות הדגולים, שעושים מלאכתם מלאכת הקודש באמונם, השם עליהם יחיו. מוריי ורבותיי, אני רוצה קודם כל לדבר עם התלמידים שידעו כמה חלבתם גדולה לפני המקום. הקדוש ברוך הוא ציווה אותנו שבבית קודשי הקודשים להיות שם קרובים. מה זה קרובים? קרביה, דמות של ילד ודמות של ילדה. והקרובים האלה פורסי כנפיים למעלה, צוחקים בכנפיהם על הכפורת ופניהם כפי של אחים. הגמרא ביומא אומרת, כדי להראות חבתם לפני המקום ברוך הוא. כשהיו ישראל עושים בצלו של מקום באופן אוטומטי, היו פניהם כפי של אחים, ובחס ושלום להפך, כל אחד פונה עורף לחברו. אבל למה ציווה הקדוש ברוך הוא לשים את הקרובים האלה בתוך בית קודשי הקודשים? להראות חבתם של ילדי ישראל, שהם מונעים כל מיני גזירות קשות ורעות. הם פורסי כנפיים למנוע שלא ירדו חס ושלום גזירות רעות על ישראל. כמו שדרשו גם כאן הפסוק, לשון רכה תשבור גרם, תשבור בתינוקות של בית רבן, גרם גזירות רעות מבטלים. ובכן, התלמידים האלה, החביבים שנמצאים כאן, הם בחינת הקרובים, הם בחינת קודשי הקודשים שלנו. שכל אחד ואחד מהם עתיד להיות בעזרת השם להיות גדול בישראל, והבנות להיות כמו שלי עקר את הבית עם הבנים שמחה, יגדלו את בניהם לתורה ויעודדו את בעליהם לתורה. וזוהי תקוותנו בכל מגמתנו. שמחתי לשמוע שלפני שנים אחדות פה לא היה כלום, היה הכל שמם, ועכשיו ברוך השם המקום פורח, אפילו שזה עמק, והעמקים יעטפו בה, יתרועעו אף ישירו. יש גם יתרועעו וגם אף ישירו, ברוך השם. והרי נאמר, ויד יהושע בתוך העמק, מלמד שלנו בעומקה של הלכה. אז אנחנו מקווים שהקטנים האלה גדולים יהיו. לא רק גדולים בגוף, אלא גדולים גם כברוח, בנשמה, נשמה גדולה. שיהיו כולם גדולי תורה, חדורי אהבת התורה. ואז יהיה מקום לשאת ולתת בעומקה של הלכה. זהו ישיבת העמק, שתהיה באמת בעומקה של הלכה. אני מאחל לכל ההורים של הילדים האלה, של התלמידים האלה, שירבו רוב נחת מכל צאצאיהם, שכולם יגידו על צאצאיהם, ברוך שזה ילד, ברוך שזה גדל. אשרי פלוני שלמד תורה, אשרי רבו שלמדו חוכמה. ועליהם נאמר, ויאמר לי עבדי אתה ישראל אשר בך אתפאר. שעם ישראל יתפאר בכם. בוודאי שהכל מותנה שאתם תשקדו על דתות התורה הקדושה, כמו שכתוב במשלי. אשרי אדם שומע לי, לשקוד על דתותיי יום יום, לשמור מזוזות פתחי. כי מוצאים מוצא חיי, שהתורה היא חיינו ואורך ימינו. אני נותן תודה למנהלים העוסקים במלאכת הקודש, המורים והמורות שעושים מלאכתם באמונה, וכל מה שהם עושים תורכים עם ילדי ישראל, ישלם השם בעולם, ותהי משכורתם שלמה מהם השם אלוהי ישראל, ירבו רוב נחת מכל תלמידיהם, ויקוים בהם הפסוק, אמרו צדיק כי טוב, כפרים על ידיהם יפה. מתחיל הפסוק בלשון יחיד, צדיק, לא אמר צדיקים. הוא מסיים כפרים על ידיהם, אלו התלמידים, שעל ידי שהם מזכים את הרבים, זכות הרבים תלויה בהם. ואני תקווה שבעזרת השם, חפץ השם בידיים נצלח, להגדיל תורה ולהדירה, ימצאוכם בסך הטוב בעיני השם ואדם, וכל אשר יתנו ישכילו ויצליחו. תודה גם כן לכל העוסקים, העסקים במלאכת הקודש, לעזור, בצל החוכמה, בצל הכסף. מה שיכולים לעשות גם כדי לממן הוצאות, או להכניס עוד יותר שיפורים, כדי שיהיה מחננו עוד גדול וקדוש. הקדוש ברוך הוא יקיים בנו מיצא מציון משמעת ישראל, ושוב השם שלמות עמו יגר יעקב ישמח ישראל, אמן ואמן.
תלמידים בבקשה לשבת. עכשיו
תלמידות חביבות יקרות, אני רוצה לפתוח בפסוק ידוע שאומרים אותו מדי שבת ושבתות. אשת חיים לי נמצא ורחוק מפנינים לך. תקף אחרי זה בסוף, רבות בנות עשו חיים ורב עלית על כולם. מה ההבדל בין אשת חיים ובין רבות בנות עשו חיים ורב עלית על כולם? מה ההבדל? הבדל כך, ישנן בנות שאוהבות חסד ואוהבות להיטיב עם הבריות, צדקה וגמילות חסדים וחונן יתומים ואלמנות, לבם פתוח, לב של יהודי. זרע אברהם, יצחק ויעקב שאמרו עליהם בגמרא בבמות, 3 מידות טובות יש בישראל: ביישנים, רחמנים ובני חסדים. יש להם המידות האלה, ולכן הם עושות חיים, אבל עדיין לא קונות להם שם של אשת חיים. אדם קונה אשת חיים, שם של אשת חיים, רק כשהוא שומר כל התורה כולה מאלף ועד תף. הפסוקים האלה של אשת חיים, לפרק הזה, פרק למד של משלי, נאמר הסדר אשפה ביתה. א' ב' מתחיל באשת חיים, אחר כך ב' בתחב"ד לבעלה, ג' גמלתו בדורה, עד תמרן פרידה מאלף עד תף. כלומר, אשת חיים זו אישה ששומרת כל התורה כולה מאלף ועד תף. מצוות של בן אדם למקום ומצוות של בן אדם לחברו. לא מספיק לעשות צדקה וחסד, לא מספיק לגמול חסדים, זה לא כל התורה כולה. יש מצוות של בן אדם למקום, לשמור שבת כהלכה, לשמור טהרת המשפחה, ללכת בדרכי הצניעות, בשמן זה הדרך. כל אישה יש לה מצוות שהיא חייבת לקיים אותן, מצוות עשה שאין הזמן גרמן לשם חייבות. כל מצוות לא תעשה בלי שום הבדל לשם חייבות. כמו שכתוב במשנה הראשונה של מסכת ברכות דרכת, נשים חייבות בתפילה, חייבות בברכת המזון, חייבות במזוזה, וכן זה דרך. אם האישה אשת חיים, היא עושה חיים, עושה צדקות, גמילות חסדים, חוננת יתומים ואלמנות, אבל עדיין היא לא שמה לב על עצמה להיות בינה ובין קונה שלמה. היא לא שמה לב על אותן מצוות חיוביות שהתורה ציוותה אותנו עליהן, אשר יעשה אותם האדם וחי בהם. זה לא אכפת לה, תתפלל או לא תתפלל, או לברך לך במזון, או לזלזל בזה, לשמור שבת או לא לשמור שבת, זה לא אכפת לה כל כך. העיקר להרכיב בזולת. אז זה כתוב, שמוני לא תראה את הכרמים, כרמי שלי לא נתת. זה רבות מאוד עשו חיים, הם עושות חיים, אי אפשר להחיש שהן עושות מצוות, צדקות, מעשים טובים, אבל הן עושות חיים. זאת אשת חיים עד שכולה טבוע בדמה כל מצוות התורה, כי תורת השם תמימה בשבילם. הן בחובות של בן אדם למקום, והן בחובות של בן אדם לחברות. תורת השם תמימה בשבילתה, אל תברוב לך חלק מהמצוות, תעשה את זה מוצא חן בעיניים וזה לא מוצא חן בעיניים. הוא אומר שמועז ונאה, שמועז ונאה, מאבד בנה של תורה. צריך להיות, לשמור כל התורה, ולכלול כל המצוות. זה תשמע אשת חיים, שהיא שומרת מאלף ועד תף. גם מצוות של אדם למקום, גם מצוות של אדם לחברו. אישה כזאת תשמע אשת חיים, מי נמצא ורחוק פעילים בכלל. ישנם אמנם רבות בנות עשו חיים, אבל ואת עלית על כולנו. כיוון שאת שומרת לא רק את המצוות שבן אדם לחברו, נותנת טובות לאחרים, שאומרת קודם כל מסתכל אדם את עצמו, תתקוששו בקושי, קשור עצמך, אחר כך קשת אחרים. ככה זה השורה בודד. וזה קשור עצמך במצוא שבאדם למקום. שהיא תהיה לטוב ותפנתו כשהוא באדם שמוצחן בשכתו בעיני אלוהים ואדם. ומוצחן בעיני הקדוש ברוך הוא, אחר כך בעיני הבריות גם. הכל נכון, כולם נתנו בתוך רועי אחד. אי אפשר לבוא חס ושלום רק מזו שבאדם המקום ולא באדם החברות. גם זה לא טוב. יש לנו מצווה שהיא גרועה כמצווה שבאדם המקום. אמנם היא לא שייכת לנשים דווקא. מצווה תפילין. הנחת תפילין זו מצווה שאדם עושה בינו ובין קונו. אבל ידוע עלינו דבר אחד. ממתי זמן הנחת תפילין ושיכיר את חברו רחוק 400 ויכרנו. בלשון תלמוד, מסכת מנחות מ"ג. וכך מסכת אחד, שולחן ערוך, גם ברמב"ם. מה פירוש הזמן הזה שהמציאו רבותינו? מתי הזמן להניח תפילין ושיכיר את חברו רחוק 400 ויכרנו? זה מה שהם אומרים, הפוסקים כותבים, 6 דקות אחרי עלות השחר, שקצת העולם הולך ונעשה יותר אור, אז זה נקרא שהוא יראה את חברו ויכרנו. אבל המדוע הזמן הזה, מה פתאום מצאו להם רבותינו מקום להגיד בסימן כזה שיראה את חברו רחוק 400 ויכרנו. יש את זה גם רמז עמוק. כתוב בירושלמי, מובא גם בתוספות במסכת שבת נ"ט. שם כתוב כך. מעשה ביהודי אחד, תלמיד חכם, צדיק, ירא שמיים, שהיה בכיסו ארנקי, ונסע באיזה מקום, לעיר שהוא לא מכיר אף אחד שם. בערב שבת, הוא צריך להפקיד את הארנקי שבתוך מלבושה, בכיסו, להפקיד את זה ביד מישהו, כדי שביום שבת אסור לטלטל בשוטי החיים לשוט הרבים, זה לא טעם בשוטי החיים לשוט הרבים, זה מלאכה. אז הוא צריך להפקיד את הארנקי של מנה לימודי ביד מישהו. הוא לא מכיר אף אחד. באותו זמן לא היו בנקים, אין בנק שילך יפקיד שם את הכסף שלו. אמר, אני אלך לבית המקדש. וראה שם איזה יהודי טוב להפקיד את הכסף בידו. נכנס לבית המקדש, ראה איזה יהודי אחד, יש לו ככה תפילין גדול כמו אבטיח על הראש שלו. ויושב, הוא מתענע, ולומד. אמר, זה צדיק. זה קדוש קדוש, אין מה לדבר. בגלל שזה אדוני, תעשה לחסד. זה כל...
The world will be Jerusalem. Asidah Yerushalayim Liot B'Danesek. All of us are hoping in year. There is a passage that says that Jerusalem will be as far as Damascus. The world will be Jerusalem. Asidah Yerushalayim Liot B'Danesek. All of us are hoping and yearning daily for the Binyan Beit HaMikdash, Binyan Yerushalayim, Biyat HaMashiach. And if he is delayed, we will wait for him, and he will come. We pray that he will not be late. Now, this day will come if we heed his voice. The Maggid Midubna, the Dubna Maggid, came to Berlin, and Jacob Krantz, and he was given a beautiful reception and so on. They were very assimilated Jews. Berlin was the seat of reform. It was that is the beginning of reform. The seed of reform was in Berlin, and they also invited him. But at that time, in Berlin, the reform did not believe in the Mashiach, did not believe in Jerusalem, did not believe in Zion, in the return to Zion. And so they pleaded with him to come to speak to them. He was finally prevailed upon to do so, but they made the condition that he should not mention Jerusalem or Zion or the Messiah. And so he spoke to them, and he spoke at length, and he spoke beautifully. And he wanted to finish with something beautiful and positive as Jew traditionally finishes. And so he was about to finish that the Mashiach would come with God's help. But he suddenly realized that was forbidden. He wasn't allowed to mention the Mashiach. So he decided instead to finish with a story. And He said, I'll tell you a story. Once a fox was hungry and thirsty. And it was in the forest, and it saw from afar beautiful, healthy, fat chicken or wild chicken or turkey. Very beautiful. Ran after the chicken, and the chicken climbed up to a tree 50 cubits high. And it was saved. And so the fox decided to approach with guile and said to the chicken, "Shalom, my brother the chicken, how are things?" The chicken looked at the fox and said, "Now look, you usually run after me and try to eat me up. And here suddenly you're saying shalom with such a nice big smile. Why the change?" "Well," said the fox, "don't you know that the Mashiach has come? And when the Messiah comes, the fox will lie down with the lion and the fox crept in there. The lamb will lie down with the lion, the wolf will lie down with the lamb, and the leopard with the sheep, and the little child shall lead them. You have nothing to be afraid of." And he tried to prevail upon him to come down and join him. In the meantime, in the distance came the dogs behind the fox. They smelled the fox, and they ran after the fox. Well, the fox saw the danger and ran away, circled around, and finally came back to that chicken that was still treed at the top of the tree. And then again began to talk very softly, "Come down, my few good friends, why are you afraid?" So the chicken said to the fox, "Now listen, you just ran away from the dogs. If the Mashiach had come, why did you run from the dogs?" And so the fox said, "Well, I'll tell you the truth. What can I do? The dogs don't believe in the Mashiach." That was the story. The Tudna Magid. At least he got the Mashiach. We are all believers, children of believers. All of us. Today everyone understands and believes and sees the Mashiach coming. The Geulah Shlema will come. You must do everything in your power that you will be part of those who bring the Mashiach. It will be not only for the sake of heaven, but it will be for your own sakes, that you and your children and children's children shall be part of the coming of the Mashiach. "Remember the Torah of Moses my servant," said the passage. And immediately after, the prophet says, "How beautiful on the hills the feet of the bringer of good news, who tells of peace, who teaches of good, and who teaches of salvation." Now, it's very interesting how this passage gradually gets more and more beautifully enthusiastic about the Mashiach. Actually, it's like a man winning the prize. He won a sweepstakes. A man who won a sweepstakes, and they come to tell him the prize, and they tell him that he won $2 million, he might faint away. Something worse can happen to him. And they first tell him, "Well, you won something." He said, "Fine, what did I win?" He said, "Well, let's look in the books, let's find out." "Oh, yes, it says here that you won a nice big prize." "Fine." They tell him the news gradually, in such a way that he should be able to take it properly. So, too, the Jews could not sustain the sudden news of the Mashiach coming. So it says, "How beautiful, the bringer of good news." What kind of good news? That it's peace. And that the Beit HaMikdash shall be rebuilt. May this be the will of God immediately and now. Uvolatzion Baruch Amen.
Day by day I know more that my rabbi is such a good translator. Thank you. Shalom, Spiegel. Shalom. With regards to Menachem Begin and to Ari.
Something very
very, very beautiful. Something that I'd like to, on behalf of the Chief Rabbi, thank himself. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Isaac Seda for this beautiful, beautiful work of ivory that was made especially for the Yeshua Sion.
The inscription on the back of this most beautiful picture carved in ivory reads as follows: שי מוגש בהערצה לכבוד רבנו עובדיה יוסף נורו יאיר יום המסיבה החגיגית של ישיבת הספרדים שנערכה לכבודו ביום ה' כסלו תשל"ו לוס אנג'לס קליפורניה. This presentation was given in honor of His Eminence, the Yeshua Sion, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, on the occasion of the banquet in his honor given by the Sephardic Hebrew Academy on the 5th day of Kislev, 5736, Los Angeles, California.
I'd like to thank the Rav Shulman and the congregation for the Lord and now, ladies and gentlemen, to our mark.
In the achievement of this goal, I consider the achievement of this goal the very foremost of any purpose that I could possibly have. Because in our Holy Torah, there are two kinds of responsibility that a man must have. First, I can't say first because there are people important. Between man and his neighbor, and between man and the Lord, and between man and his neighbor. I'm trying to get it to you in the order, the reference. Insofar as our fellow man is concerned, we are required to show love and fellowship and brotherhood for everyone, every single man, since man was created in the reflection of godliness or in the image of God, and not to make any difference between anyone, whatever the race, whatever the color, whatever the creed, whatever the origin. And not only in this world, but in the next world, in the Garden of Eden, there will be a very honored and beautiful place for the righteous people of every nation of the world, of every background. As the Maimonides said when commenting on the beautiful passage of that refers to having a share in the world to come, saying all Israel have a share in the world to come. All includes not only Israel, but all nations everywhere. Anyone who is righteous will have his share of the world to come, provided he lives in a righteous, just, kind, and proper fashion, just as it is required of us to do.
Does he have more statement on this that he wants to make, do you think, or?
This is the basic part of the statement, and now you can ask whatever questions.
Right, you can tell him I understand this, and I appreciate the way he's said this and tied it in with the heritage of you as the people of the book. I'm interested in knowing a little bit more at some point here about the Sephardic community in Southern California. From here, I gather there are 25 to 30,000, and I'm wondering about the cohesiveness of Sephardic Jews here compared to how this is in Israel, and what particular problems are faced here what are the problems or challenges as he and local leaders see it.
רוצה עכשיו לדעת יותר על הספרדים, ובמיוחד אם אפשר החרדה בספרדים בדרום קליפורניה. אני יודע שיש כמעט 30,000 הספרדים פה, אם יש אחדות פה, האם בקהילת הספרדים פה בהשוואה לקהילת ישראל יש יותר פחות אחדות ביניהם לדוגמה, ואיזה בעיות פה ואיזה אתגרים יש פה.
אני רק, כמו ששאול הגעתי כאן, עדיין אני לא יכול לומר באופן סופי, אבל מוחלט, אם יש באמת אחדות דעים, לפי הנראה מעל השטח, שיש הכותבים דעים בעניינים אקדמיים, אם יש קצת חלקות בעניינים לא כל כך אקדמיים, אבל נקווה שמי שאמר חכמים, מחלוקת לשם שמיים סופה להתקיים, וגם כן אפשר לאשר את העניינים, ובפרט אם יפנו אליי לאישור הדברים, יודע שאני משתדל לעזור כמיטב יכולתי.
לכל הפרטים יכול לקבל את אנשי הקהילה. לכל הפרטים יכול לקבל את אנשי הקהילה.
The details you can get from the local community here, but he has been here all in all less than 2 days, you see, so that he cannot give you an official and categorical and final decision on all of these problems in the community. But as far as he can see, there is basically a unity for the cause, is the saying. The problems of differences that might ensue are not in basics, and there might be differences that might ensue. They're not so basic that they cannot be solved, and that is what one of the things that he is willing to lend his position and his person to solve whatever problems there are, and to unite the people for the sake of heaven, or any difference that has as its purpose the sake of heaven and the sake of Torah and Judaism will have a good result, and he will try to help in any way possible if there is any such. And for details, of course, you'll have to find the local communities. Rabbi Nisson, by the way, had come in later on, and this is Mr. Fallis. Rabbi Nisson,
first of all,
I see, and Mr. Fallis, of course, the president.
Good. Well, maybe we can chat about those things, and also the little of the background and size of the academy and so forth. But while Chief Rabbi is here, several other questions. What outside of being at the special dinner Sunday evening, what other functions or things is he going to be doing or participating in, and how long will his stay be here in Los Angeles?
מלבד המשק הגדול שעושים בראשון בערב coming to Mexico. There have been already many important visits that he has made. I say important in terms of, this is my word. The Rav said they're important, but they are. Important visits that he has made, in that he has visited each and every one of the schools, either already or is about to visit today. He's going to have some additional visits to the schools, of the Jewish schools, of the all-day schools. And he has spoken before the children, and he sees in this speech, in these speeches that he has made, a tremendous satisfaction, because he sees how eager they are to hear the words of the rabbi and so on. And this I'm testifying to as well, because we have a school, and I accompanied him through our school. And I can tell you this as an aside, his ability to communicate with everyone at every age is fantastic. In Hebrew, he has held from the first grade to the fourth grade spellbound, and then from the fifth grade to the eighth grade spellbound, in two separate levels entirely, and was able to communicate to each one in just a fantastic way, in such a way that they just drank it in. It was then they crowded around him and so on. To see the chief rabbi of Israel with their eyes is a tremendous experience, and to hear him is an inspiration. This is an inspiration they will never forget. So that going to each and every one of the student schools and seeing each and every one of the school children everywhere in Los Angeles is a fantastic strengthening for all of the schools. And obviously these are schools that are Ashkenazic schools, in that the founders were, but they include Ashkenazim and Sephardim amongst the students, because there is no such thing as two Judaisms in this. And now they're going to found a Sephardic school. This is not, again, I'm interpolating myself just to give you an idea of what the schools will like now.
Sephardic school is already in existence.
It is in existence. Yeah. It certainly is, but it's going to be, we're hoping, very successfully built in a new building and so on. Right. And what I have seen of the schools is they give a wonderful education to the children in the faithfulness and in love of their fellow man, according to the statement of the sages, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, is all of the Torah that man must fulfill and follow. And even today he's going to various synagogues. In addition to this, he has lectured before the various rabbis in the community in very practical matters of Jewish law. And for after all, it says, from Zion shall go forth the Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem, and the questions of Jewish law to which we look to the chief rabbi to give answers to have been discussed. Many of them have been discussed
Is
in
this
gatherings.
Informally, or has he met with various councils or associations?
Met with the Rabbinical Council of California, and has met this morning with whoever would like to come to the services this morning, and is
שולמן, רציתי מאוד לציין שבביקורי הקודמים שהופעתי בכמה קהילות, ותרם שנעשה קשר הדוק בין התפוצות הגדולה ובין מדינת ישראל, וכל בעיות שהיו ביניהם, בין המנהיגים והרבנים כיוצא בהם, התקשרו אותנו בכל העניינים הכלליים שהם דנים בהם, בעיות רבות. אז ככה אנחנו מחזיקים את הקשר במקום שאני מופיע שם. עכשיו לא רק לזמן שאני נמצא פה, כי על זה כך ההיכרות, נעשה קשר הדוק ביני ובין הקהילה, ואני מקווה שכל פעם אני יכול לתרום גם כן לעזור להם על ידי מכתבים או בכל מיני כלי התקשורת שאפשר להיות, כדי שיוכלו להיעזר, כמו שכתוב, ישלחו יעזורו ולהחיל במחד.
And in his appearance here before these various communities and so on, another purpose of his is to make a very strong connection between the exile and between those Jews who live outside of Israel, the diaspora, let us say, and the spiritual leadership of Israel, in such a way that any questions that might come up and so on, with the modern communication means that are at our disposal, that we should be able to immediately communicate to Israel and back again in such a way that we shall become more and more one people. In fact, in actuality, as well as in spirit. In addition to the appearances that have just been mentioned, by the way, the Sephardic community is going to take over an Ashkenazic synagogue, my synagogue, the Sharei Tefillah congregation, Beverly and Prince, it's a very large one, and it's going to become the Sephardic synagogue for the Sabbath, actually. And it's where the whole service is going to change into the Sephardic tradition. Rabbi Nisson will officiate led by the chief rabbi, of course, and the chief rabbi himself will read the Torah and etc.
What's the name of the synagogue?
Sha'arei Tefillah, Shaarei Tefillah, Beverly and Poinsettia, near to the day.
كذلك تجد الشهران والنام بعد الجنين كمثلين ذاتيين على المحارم في مكان
City Council.
سيدي كونسل ולפניו הוא רוצה לעלות היות ואני מתלווה אליו את הנושא של יהדות הצלת יהדות סוריה. אנחנו מאוד מתנגדים לגורלם של 5,000 יהודים, אנחנו רוצים שדעת הקהל העולמית תעשה למען הצלתם בהקדם האפשרי בסוריה.
The chief rabbi, although he has come for religious matters, yet at the same time, tomorrow he is scheduled to appear before the city council in Los Angeles. And to the city council, he is very anxious to bring to the agenda and to their attention the lot of the unfortunate Jews of Syria and their persecution and their oppression, and hope that they, as all free men, as all men who of goodwill everywhere in the world, will raise their voices in protest for this oppression and suppression in such a way that the Jews of Syria shall be freed and permitted to emigrate everywhere they will, or those who wish to remain there at least to live without fear for their life as well as their property. Yes, and in Monday he will appear before the students at UCLA. Which students are? And on Sunday morning there's going to be a very interesting procession parade actually between on Melrose Avenue at 10:30, in which they're going to dedicate a Sephardic Torah and bring it to the Sephardic Magen David congregation. That's Rabbi Nishon's congregation, and you must have the spelling of it, Magen David.
Oh, I better start again.
Sephardic Magen Magen David, David, congregation on Vista, Elma, and Melrose. So march from Sierra Bonita to Vista and Melrose. On Melrose. On Melrose. With the bridal canopy over the Torah, and with the Torah as the center of the procession.
What time will that be?
That will be at 10:30 in the morning on Sunday. And
I might send a photographer.
that would be very beautiful. Yes, and he will walk holding the Torah and the
on Melrose.
Mr. Gindi is a leader, who's the president of the academy, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Powell is the president of the academy, but Mr. Gindi, who is the honoree of the academy's dinner, has donated the Torah. It is a of a Sephardic style Torah, which is in one case a very beautiful brown velvet case with all kinds of decorations and so on.
Oh, now would be a good time for me to ask a couple of questions here, if I might, because my time is limited. I have to.
Can the Rabbi leave?
Oh, certainly. Yes.
מודיע לו מאוד, תגידו שאני מביע לו את הערכתי אליו, ומקווה שבכל אשר יפני יזכיר ויצליח.
The Chief Rabbi thanks you and expresses his best wishes and hopes and praise that in everything that you do you should be successful and bring good and goodwill to all people.
I would wish him Godspeed in his efforts, and that men of goodwill everywhere would heed his words of wisdom. Shalom. Thank you. Could you write down the names and spellings for me? Your name and those in his party from Israel. Yeah. Okay, well, all right.
But I'll write down my name anyway.
Rabbi Nisson is here.
Rabbi Nisson, Mr. Chandler would like to have the names of all the people who are accompanying the Chief Rabbi. In fact, I'd like to introduce you, and perhaps you should, I'm sure that you should stay to have more questions. This is the Minister of the Parliament, Menachem Yadid.
Yes.
Right. So I'm sure that you want to have
עוד ניפגש. פעם אחרת.
Mr. Joseph. Fallas. Mr. Joseph, Fallas. Mr. Jack Kindy. Gindi. Mr. Max Candioli. He's not here right now. No. He is Candioli.
Oh, not one. No. I think it's I. Isn't that Candioli end with an I? Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
All right, my name is.
Within this, or is it, excellent. Now, I don't mind who answers, I just need to know.
I think that in the Sephardic community is unique in that there is no separate Orthodox, conservative, and Reform. Certainly in Los Angeles and practically throughout the world, there is a conservative Sephardic congregation that I am aware of in New York. But that's the only one that I am aware of.
How would you, well, certainly the Sephardic community is not a fourth stream of Judaism. You wouldn't put it that way. Well, which synagogues would you go to? All of them, or are primarily Orthodox, or what?
Well,
and this shows, I probably should know this, but I don't.
No. It's a difficult question to answer because it really presumes that there is that it's like different religions. It really isn't. Orthodox, conservative, and Reform are all Jews.
Of course.
It is all one religion. It's all based on the same belief in God and the same Torah.
Sure.
So that really, basically, it's all one. Now, Reform developed in the Ashkenazic communities in Europe. And then from that also developed the conservative movement, which is in between. This sort of a development never took place in the Sephardic world. So that a Sephardi might attend a conservative, might attend a Reform, or might attend an Orthodox congregation.
In Southern California, do Sephardic Jews have social and religious functions at which they are exclusively or predominantly together, or are they assimilated and mingled with?
There are many who are assimilated. However, just as other Jewish congregations, other, let's say, Ashkenazic, non-Sephardic congregations, have their own functions, have their own dances, their own social functions. So also, the Sephardic congregations have their own functions.
You wouldn't characterize this as separatist?
Not at all.
In any way?
Absolutely not at all.
And it is based on common ethnic heritage? What is the commonality among Sephardic Jews here in Southern California? I mean, how does one say, I am Sephardic Jew? Because of his origin, of where he was born?
Right, where he was born and the traditions that were handed down to him from his parents and grandparents. Traditions are slightly at variance with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right, Rabbi? Is there more that you would say on that?
Traditions, customs, certain modes.
You want to list the countries that the
There's Sephardic in Europe amongst the Sfaradim that exist that is a bit different than in Europe, the Ashkenazi. And it basically stems from the countries because of the fact that the Jews from Spain migrated to certain countries. But it stems from the difference stems from the outlook and the philosophy of Judaism that comes from the rabbis of Spain and the rabbis of Africa and certain countries in the Middle East.
It's not a matter of color.
Color? No.
Let me try to explain it this way. Jews throughout history have always developed within the land in which they lived.
Mm-hmm.
And in that land they developed certain customs. Now the customs developed in one land will be slightly different from the customs in another. The customs developed throughout Europe have a certain commonality.
Right.
The customs developed in the Mediterranean area also have their own type of commonality. The ones who are from the Mediterranean area basically became the Spartans, and the ones in Eastern Europe, developing their own customs, became what we would now call Ashkenazi.
May I interject here, Jack, if I may, that Jewish law is the same for Sephardim and Ashkenazi. It is merely in certain superficial appearances, the tradition, certain traditions of how we do things are slightly different. But a Sephardi and Ashkenazi, without any religious hindrance, can pray in each other's synagogues without problem because the law is the same. I'd like to add, in terms of the conservative reform that you mentioned before, or someone different to interject, that in the Sephardic community, therefore, just to summarize in a sense, there is no such thing, meaning that as far as Judaism is concerned, it's one Judaism, the traditional Judaism. Mm-hmm. And this is, the tradition is all important. Is that
yes.
What was said?
Right, that helps.
Right. I might be able to emphasize a little bit more about the Ashkenazic and the Sephardic thing in my own instance. Okay? In my own case, when my children were young, they went to an Ashkenazic school. And yet they are as Sephardic as I am. Mm-hmm. They learn Judaism. They learn the same Torah, the same laws, the same basic traditions of Judaism.
Now, where were you born, for example?
I was born in New York. But you see, there is no difference at all between the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim in Torah, law, and so forth.
May I interject you for a second? I think that there's no difference in the law, in the religion, in the ideology, but there are differences of customs which stem from the law. Yes. Customs that are outgrowths of the law, there are differences.
Mr. Yadid asked me to say just now, to remind us what the Chief Rabbi before had made the observation that probably summarizes all of this, that the differences between the Ashkenazic and the Sephardic community is a result of the diaspora. The fact that we were exiled in various parts of the world. And that basically now, what we have to do is, of course, that we are in the process now of merging the influx of exiles to Israel and merging them in a community. And by the way, I'd like to add that the process of merger is such that they emphasize the retention of their individual customs and characteristics because this enriches our culture. Exactly. It merely, the fact that we're able to live together as one people is because we are one people. Mm-hmm. But the effort is to try to retain and strengthen the beauty of the various cultural developments which the centuries and the ages have given to our people. It's just an additional contribution to our people.
So
it's unity and diversity.
Now this applies particularly to the Sephardic Hebrew Academy.
Yeah, I want to get to that now.
Now you can tie this right into the Sephardic Hebrew Academy. In that, for all these years in Los Angeles, there has not been a Sephardic day school.
Until
until about 4 or 5 years ago when this started. However, in all of these years, the Sephardim were involved with all of the other day schools, which were Ashkenazic in origin. Now, in the establishment of the Sephardic day school, the Ashkenazim are taking a very strong hand to help to develop that. So that, again, you have that same sort of
how many students are there at the academy, and where is it?
There's approximately about 50.
50?
More or less,
And where is it located?
It's located right presently in small quarters on Melrose and Vista, as part of the Sephardic Magen David synagogue building.
Is that the Sephardic temple or synagogue?
Well, there are 6, there are about 5 Sephardic synagogues in Los Angeles.
L.A. proper or greater Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles City.
And how many would there be, say, from
I think that would be in greater
San
Los
Fernando Valley down to through Orange County?
I believe at the moment that's about it.
But they're located right nearby.
Right, they're all in the Los Angeles metropolitan area.
Okay.
Of the 5, there is one located at Fairfax near Slauson.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that's just being built on Wilshire Boulevard. There is one on Robertson. There is one that we're speaking of on Melrose.
Is that the largest?
No, the largest building is the one being built on Wilshire Boulevard.
Is there any one that is preeminent or
preeminent structurally?
Well, let's not get into that.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, I don't know. That might set up a distinction that doesn't really exist. I don't want to do that.
Would you like to hear the reason why we have a Sephardic Hebrew Academy? Why we have to have Sephardic means?
The only other one in the U.S. is in New York City.
New York City.
Is that the largest Sephardic community in the U.S.?
In the United States.
And
yes.
would L.A. rank second
yes,
then?
Yes,
mm-hmm.
It is.
Sure, that's a leading question.
Right.
I'm glad you asked that.
Okay. Well, actually, the reason for having a Sephardic day school is that this is where the means justifies the ends, where the Sephardic children would, in other ways, would not have a basic Jewish education. What we are trying to do is to bring these children in so that they can receive a Jewish education where otherwise they would not have received one. The example being that just when the Jews left Egypt, it took them 40 years to mold together to become a people till they entered. Well, this is the same thing. We're to give the children a Jewish education and to bring them up in the Jewish traditions that we want. They have to also at the same time be brought up in Judaism within their own culture, so that it could be strengthened. Judaism itself can be strengthened.
Well, they could receive a Jewish education, but not within the context
of their culture and tradition background.
Right. Mr. Yadid added to this comment the following, that before we can even begin to consider, as far as these children are concerned, the awareness that we are one total community, Sephardim and Ashkenazim, with each our cultural heritage that enriches the whole, we have to bring them at least to Judaism. And many of them will never come to a day school or learn anything in Judaism unless they have this Sephardic day school. And this Sephardic day school, if a person is of Sephardic origin, there are many people of Sephardic origin who would not send them to any Jewish education. But the fact that there is such a school will attract them. And so they expect many such people to then be able to be saved to Judaism for this reason. And through an awareness of their heritage, they'll know the whole world. This is Mr. Yendid's comment.
And you asked about the number of students. I think we ought to expand on that a little bit. Right now there are only about 50 students short period.
What grades or ages is the school for?
Elementary school from nursery till the 8th grade.
Nursery?
That's what it will be.
That's what it will be. That's what it's an elementary school.
It's growing grade by grade.
So basically elementary.
Well, now
we're now up to the 5th grade, but the school itself will be.
I think it's important to mention that we hope, though, to establish a high school as well.
how far down the road is that?
Well, that's in the future. But this is part of the whole plan.
Else, we have here with us, as you know, Rabbi Nisson, who is the rabbi of the Sephardic Magen David, and we have Rabbi Wakmi, who is the rabbi of the Sephardic Hebrew Center. The Sephardic Hebrew Center has been established in Los Angeles for many, many years. And really, I think that perhaps I've been guilty here of monopolizing too much of the conversation. I think that we ought to ask Rabbi Wakmi to say.
Give me your full name and spelling.
Daniel Wakni, Waknine.
And where is the center located?
Fairfax and Slauson, 4911 West 59th Street.
Give me that again.
4911 West 59th Street, Los Angeles.
And what is the main purpose, or what does the center do?
A little bit history about the congregation is predominantly of Jews coming from.
Is it a synagogue?
The Isle of Rose. It's a synagogue.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you say they come from the Isle of Rhodes?
Yes, predominantly, mostly from the Isle of Rhodes.
Haven't they also taken upon themselves really the thrust of establishing the Sephardic Home for the Aged?
Yes. I've taken also the project. We also have an established Talmud Torah.
Talmud Torah is an afternoon Hebrew school.
It's a religious school.
It's an afternoon
Oh, okay.
school where they go for about 2 hours a day, 3 days a week.
Good. I'm going to have to leave, but if I have further questions when I get into working on the story, who shall I call? Sure, any of you. And you've been most helpful. It's been a good learning experience for me.
Well, it's a shame that, surprisingly, we have not gotten across the community before this time, but the kind of response we're getting from the community is magnificent. And I mean the entire community, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, everything. That's
Well, even if I didn't write one word about this, and I am going to, but I feel it's part of my responsibility as a religion writer for the Times to learn and keep up with what's going on. So I appreciate making the contact with you gentlemen very much.
Do you want any other pictures?
Let me talk to one of my editors about whether the photographer might be available at 10:30 on Sunday for that procession. Will the Torah be in evidence?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Now, it's going to start at the home of Rabbi Nisson.